Okay, here we go. Hello, everybody. How are we doing? Can you hear us? Can you see us? Let me know. In the chat, there's a little chat function. Hello, Maria. Keisha, hi. Dom, hello. Tanisha, how are you doing? Where's everybody watching from? I'm currently in the UK and I am in a place called Cornwall, if anybody knows. I'm kind of in the middle of nowhere, which is lovely. Davila, where are you streaming in from?
We are in our office in White City.
White City,
in
London, nice. And Zoe?
Yep, also London over here.
Excellent. Oh, we've got Paris, Glasgow, London, nice. Dom, what part of Cornwall? Near Truro. Near Truro, if that makes any sense to anyone. California, Mindy. Hey, California. I feel like it's early for you, Mindy, but I'm weird with time zones, so unsure. Texas, amazing. Well, good to see you, everybody, and thanks so much for joining. We're going to kick things off here. It's how you can use kind of customer support, customer care within your business, whether that be subscription or kind of the more repeat revenue customers as well. My name is Charlotte Lynch. I am the Customer Success Manager at Centisum. So welcome. How customer support impacts revenue in a subscription business is the title of this. And to give you a little instruction on the platform we're using today, you'll see some emoji reactions at the bottom of your screen, which you're welcome to use whenever you like. There's also a chat function, which you are using very well at the minute, so thank you guys. And we'll also be enabling a Q&A function right at the end of the webinar. So if you do have a question that you want to ask, just make a note of it, keep it somewhere, whether that's a mental compartment or write it down. And then when we open the Q&A function, you can type them in there. If you'd like, feel free to give the emoji function a little go. You should see a little emoji at the bottom, and you can just do little thing. Hey, we got some waves, we've got some heart eyes, amazing. You guys are pros already. Okay. And it's so lovely to meet you guys. So let's get started. We're super excited to be talking about the fundamental role that customer support, I'm sure you guys know, plays in customer retention, product strategy, and revenue in subscription and repeat business organizations. And I'd like to welcome our incredible panelists, Zoe Nussbaum, Customer Solutions Manager at Gousto, and Davila Enekite, Customer Love Team Leader at Butternut Box. So Zoe, would you mind maybe giving a little brief intro?
Sure, absolutely. So hello, everyone. My name is Zoe Nussbaum. So I've been at Gousto for just over 2 years now, and I head up the customer solutions team. So this team's really focused on embedding the voice of the customer throughout the whole company, optimizing our digital product and proposition using customer support data.
Fantastic. Thank you, Zoe. And Davila?
Hi, I'm Davila. I'm one of the team leaders within Customer Love at Butternut Box. I've joined back in January, and it's a dream to work in a company that puts customers and their dogs at the forefront of everything we do with so much love and care. On a personal note, I am very analytical. Diving deep into numbers and trends is definitely my cup of tea. I always want to ensure that we're giving a world-class customer service to our lovely customers, as well as keeping in mind our team happiness.
Fantastic. Amazing. And we have some wonderful images that show just that behind you there, Davila. Brilliant. So as I'm sure everybody here knows watching, Gousto and Butternut Box are both subscription businesses. And while this webinar is focusing specifically on subscription, these learnings are likely going to be relevant to any business who has frequent repeat customers, like mentioned earlier. The reason we're zeroing in on these types of businesses is because when you have frequent returning customers or subscription businesses, you tend to have more touch points with your customers, meaning more opportunity to build relationships and loyalty, which is fantastic. But also, more touch points means there's more opportunities for things to go wrong. Particularly important, this is because retention is an essential metric for subscription businesses. Your customers don't equate to single sales. They're responsible for ongoing MRR, or monthly recurring revenue. So if you lose a customer, you don't just lose that one sale, you lose that ongoing revenue. And it's something that Gousto and Butternut Box are super aware of, and one of the reasons that they focus their efforts on retention. So I'm going to ask Zoe first, if you don't mind. Gousto, super data-driven, and you describe yourselves as a tech company that loves food. So I'm wondering how you harness data and feedback to shape your decisions and center your strategies around things the customers are asking for.
Yeah, it's a great quote there from Timo, our CEO, that you've dug out. But yeah, so in my experience, I find that the most successful data-driven strategies are really underpinned by well-structured teams and great people. I think at Gousto, we follow what we call a tribe business structure. So that aligns to the 7 core jobs that our customers expect us to solve for them. So that goes from, activation, unboxing their food, making sure we're winning on choice, right through to care. So the business structure means that just from the outset, we're already set up for success to be focused around the customer needs. So each tribe's success is really down to that cross-functional team. So within each tribe, we have a number of technical squads, many analysts, data science, product designers embedded with each tribe. So I lead a team of amazing people who are also embedded into each tribe, and they're really focused on analyzing relevant customer contacts, monitoring changes of sentiment over time, and creating that feedback loop to the rest of the business. So we find that humanizing the data we collect is super important. That's why my team spend some time directly talking to our customers on a weekly basis to make sure they're just really at the pulse of what's most important to them. And as a team, we may use this data to help inform, day-to-day design decisions within our digital product, identify, completely new propositional changes, like scaling our menu and making sure that all of our customers have all the choice that they could ever need. But just keeping the customer both at the core of our data and business strategy means that we never go off track from our vision, which is to become the UK's most loved way to eat dinner. So yeah, to summarize, I think it's about making sure that you have the right motivated people within that customer focused structure. And the way we have found success is really just investing in people, investing in product, and allowing us to springboard that data-driven customer centricity.
I love that. Thank you, Zoe. That's brilliant. And I think it's really interesting you say having that customer-focused structure, especially with the tribes you described. It's really important to enable that kind of environment as well. So thank you. Great answer. Davila. So Butternut Box's customer support team are called the Customer Love Team. Love that. Which kind of goes to show the customer centricity you have as well for your customers and their pets. So I'm wondering, what are some of the things that you've implemented at Butternut Box at the request of customers? And what did you find was the result of it?
Thanks, Charlotte. Customers are absolutely at the forefront of everything we do here at Butternut. A little while ago in our customer satisfaction survey, we have added an additional question asking, would you use WhatsApp in the future if we have introduced it? And 75% of our customers said yes. And we have launched WhatsApp as a result. It's been very successful for us. One of the busiest channels we've got. It is a great tool to reach out to businesses. It is very easy to use. Take your phone and put it back in the pocket once done. Customers expect quick answers via WhatsApp, and this leads to high customer satisfaction. We also have a channel called Voice of the Customer, where we submit any feedback received from our customers each week. And each week the feedback is reviewed by different members from different departments, looking how we can improve. So a couple of recent changes, we have introduced an option to order on-demand extras outside of customer core order, because this is what our customers have been asking for a while. And one of the most recent changes that we're very excited about, a couple of weeks ago, we launched our Salmon to Love recipe. We're very big on feedback, as I mentioned, and a lot of our customers have mentioned that our previous fish meal wasn't quite hitting the spot for a lot of our butternutters, hence a new meal that they will be excited to eat.
Brilliant. That's really great. And that's all things that you've done from customer feedback, which is really, really fantastic to hear. I love that. Maria says, when adding WhatsApp, when you say adding WhatsApp has been successful, which KPIs have you measured? Did the satisfaction increase? I don't know if you're able to answer that at all, Davila, regarding kind of KPIs and WhatsApp.
So customer satisfaction, it's hard to compare to what has been before because WhatsApp wasn't there. But since we launched it and we introduced customer satisfaction, it has been high, one of the highest channels we have.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. Amazing. I do have a question for the audience as well. So I'm just wondering, from your perspective, as members of the audience, do you see customer support, service, love, whatever your department is called, do you see it as a revenue driver in your organization? And I'm gonna pop it in here and see if we can show this message here. So there we go. Do you see customer support as a revenue driver in your organization? Brian, do you use WhatsApp as a channel for two-way conversations? Davila.
Sorry, which one is that?
Brian's just asking if you use, how do you use WhatsApp? Is it kind of like just a way for them to communicate with you on offers, or do you just send them like delivery reminders, stuff like that?
So WhatsApp is one of the channels that customers can proactively reach out to us. Same like email, phone, or live chat.
Perfect. Brilliant. Thank you, Davila. Tori says, absolutely, our customer service is a selling point. Oh, brilliant. So yeah, not even just a revenue driver, but something that you can actively try and gain customers with as well. That's brilliant. Yes, yes. And then we've got some thumbs up here. David can act not only as a revenue generator, but a revenue saver, turning around customers who are thinking of leaving. That's a really, really good point. It drives revenue in kind of all elements, not just that continued business, but the saves as well. Really good. Strong training and good context. CX can be a wonderful revenue driver. Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you, everybody. That's some really good insights from the audience there. So we'll come back to brand loyalty now is our next topic, and it's a very real thing, whether you stick to the same gym, type of coffee, toothpaste, car. Loyalty can be really strong in some people. And I wonder, just kind of a loose audience question while we're discussing this, does anyone in the audience have a particular brand or subscription they would consider themselves like a real fan of, or an active loyal customer of? And if so, why? What is it about that makes you want to buy that brand? And then Davila, what do you think it is that drives customer loyalty?
I think it's definitely product and customer support. Yeah, that would be the short and sweet answer.
Absolutely. And I think there's lots of reasons why people might stick with the same brand. It could be ease, comfort, cost, but you can go further and kind of beyond that, as somebody mentioned earlier, kind of using your customer support or your customer service as a selling point. People may well come back to you just because your experience was so good. I've spoken to people who use a online store just because if they went into an actual shop or they tried to order online somewhere else, it may not be as well communicated what is happening with that delivery. I'm sure we always know which one it is. It's a small little company called Amazon, but they were just raving about the fact that despite it having such a huge market share, the reason they keep going back is because they get updated at every single critical point of that buying journey, which is something that's really important. So then, Zoe, I'm wondering, how do you build relationships with your customers at Gousto to promote loyalty and to promote people wanting to come to you and your brand?
Yeah, it's a really great question. I think we know that really focusing on those basic functional elements of our proposition and really nailing these, so we'll build trust with those customers, which is, as you know, core to customer loyalty. So that's why we think it's so important to rely on that customer feedback and be proactive when fixing any issues if they do happen. However, we know that the real loyalty magic is unlocked when you also focus on those emotional elements of the customer journey as a priority. So, for example, you know that choice is super important to our customers. We want to make sure that someone using Gousto to help with, say, their fitness journey goals has as much variety as possible to keep them motivated and on track. Or on the other hand, maybe you've had a really tough week, we'll chuck in some Tony's chocolate only to help sweeten up your day. But I think as a business, Gousto really wants to leave the people and the planet better off, because we know this is a huge motivator for our customers. So making sure that our vision as a company is actually aligned to the customers is really, really integral to promoting loyalty. We actually recently ran a really, really interesting project called our Flavor Saver campaign, which helped customers who had lost their sense of taste and smell because of COVID. So our superstar chefs created a series of recipes targeted at people that have what's called anosmia, so that lack of taste and smell. And that was built with experts in the field to help bring back their taste of sense and smell. We also just really want to make sure that we're partnering with companies that are top of mind for our customers. I know recently we've had Aperol, Marmite, and just really tapping into that surprise and delight element as much as possible. I know just yesterday, actually, I had a Moju ginger shot in my box, which, you know, as the weather in England is starting to get colder, help keep my immune system up and running. So, you know, these sorts of partnerships just really help us build trust and brand loyalty over time, to help get that role like brand love.
That's so amazing. The Flavor Saver, I absolutely love that as an idea as well. What a fantastic initiative.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was super popular.
I can imagine. Amazing. And we've got some people in the chat as well. Say Annalise says Spotify, continuous ease of use, good support teams. Lola's Cupcakes from Bryony, how they cater to different diets. Love that. Spotify from David as well. ClassPass, Polly. I love ClassPass. Nespresso from Joe. And Geronimo. Amazon sees themselves as the most customer-centric company, so it makes sense. It does make sense indeed. Fantastic. Okay, so I was wondering then, to come to Davila on this one, how do you surprise and delight customers to promote loyalty, and how important is that to you as a business?
Surprise and delight is so important to us. We started at the very beginning when we were a super small startup, and as we grow bigger, we won't drop it. We will be looking into efficient ways to continue, because it's very important to the business. We are super lucky to have dogs as our customers. We send toys for different occasions, flowers for dogs who passed away, or a blanket to a dog who is unwell. We really try to put ourselves in our customers' shoes. We don't treat our customers like numbers. And one thing we ask when interviewing team members, what do you love the most about customer service? And the answers are, I love solving problems. I love putting a smile on customers' face. Let's give the tools to do that. Empower the team to do those nice things. And our Slack channel is full of beautiful things we do. I think it's also important to mention our team, who bring their weird whole selves to work and have fun with the ideas behind those gifts that are quirky. For example, recently our customer's dog name was Pigeon, so we sent a plush toy of a pigeon. And we have so many customers getting back to us saying they didn't expect it. And we also made some customers cry too. Recently, we had a customer mentioning that she has never been given flowers before in her life. And also, I guess to kind of finish this also, surprise and delight can also extend to non-material form of delighting customers. For example, one of our customers told us they are getting married on a certain date. Our team member has set a calendar reminder ahead of the day to send them an email wishing the best day ahead. So it's also, you know, those little things that show genuine care.
That's fantastic. And I think that speaks as well to what Zoe was saying earlier about having the right people as well, because that means that that person on your team felt empowered to be able to say and cared enough to put that reminder in and to send that note to them when the time came. So that's some amazing work by those team members there. Just going to pop a question in the chat here for everyone. I'm wondering, what are some of the ways that you go the extra mile for customers in your business as well? I know we've heard from kind of Zoe and Davila about Gousto and Butternut Box, but in terms of yours, what do you guys do for customers in your business? And I'm going to pop this on the screen here and then read some of these out. Oh, Elena, Butternut customer. Oh, Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Alina. And Dara says, how do you empower your CS team? That's an interesting one. How do you empower it? Davila, do you have any kind of tips? I know we're going to do key takeaways at the end, but just wondering if you have any kind of thoughts on the empowering.
I think it's, striking that balance and giving the team the tools that they are able to do that. So, working on those efficiencies as we scale, naturally we are busier, but also to have that allocated time to do those surprise and delights. It's okay to take some time to, look for a specific toy to send to a customer after the conversation. So yeah, it's just giving the time that is needed to do these beautiful things, and also being conscious on the back of it that finding the time is giving the right tools and kind of continue looking for efficient processes to give to our team.
Absolutely. I'd have to say I 100% agree. If you want people to take proactive measures, you have to give them the time and space to do that. And it could be that it's a tool or a process that makes something else more efficient, which then allows space and time to do these types of things. So thank you, Davila. That's a really good point. Brilliant. Okay. So the next little bit, we are going to be talking about kind of the unique position initially of Butternut Box, and how your customer and consumer are maybe different. You mentioned, and it's probably everyone's quite aware right now, that you don't only need to consider the human aspect of your customers, but also the pets in everything that you do. And anyone here who has a dog or animal will know that people's pets are a huge emotional driver for them. So how does this consideration shape your customer love approach?
Thanks, Charlotte. I think pets are a huge emotional driver. A pet is part of your family, and the conversations we have with our customers are very personal. But again, I think it's important to start answering this question by mentioning our team members who are having those conversations. We don't call ourselves a call center. We are a customer love department, and we also don't call our team members agents. We want everyone to have a warm feeling about their role. And another question we ask in our interview process, what would you find challenging in customer love role, particularly in Butternut? And many candidates reply saying that conversations where customers says that their pooch passed away would be a challenging one. There has to be a lot of empathy in that conversation, and it is heartbreaking news, and everyone deals differently with grief. And as a result, it needs different approach from our team members while having that conversation. So I think our team and customers definitely have one thing in common: health and happiness of their dogs. Many of us are dog owners. We can really relate to our customers. It can be a fussy eater topic that I mentioned before, or the same illness that our dog had as well. And on a positive note, we recently have launched our training treats, and we have been sent videos of our customers teaching their dogs to do tricks. So we're part of customers and their dog's life journey, whether it's happy moments or sad news.
That's really, really good to know. And it shows the care that your customers have as well by sending you these things and engaging with you actively on it. It's really, really cool to hear. David and Shabam, they are some fantastic questions, and I'm going to come to those at the end in the Q&A, if that's okay. I just have something that is a burning question for Zoe on revenue retention, and what impact have you seen on revenue retention from being customer-centric and data-led?
Yeah, so absolutely. So I think being customer-centric and data-led has really enabled us to develop our amazing proposition, meaning that we're number one in the market for choice and the UK's best value recipe box. So, I mean, in 2021, we sold over 90 million meals, which is up from 53 million meals the year before. So that's amazing. 3 meals a second, which I think is a great way of putting it into perspective. I mean, like within customer care, the sheer amount of data and value to be gained from each conversation has really led the department to be seen as a value generator rather than a cost center. So breaking that typical representation of customer contact centers. And this has really enabled us to invest both in people, but product, as we know the link between great customer care and long-term retention is super strong. So we also invest heavily in experimentation, so meaning that we'll always run some sort of A/B test for any customer-facing changes. So this may be designing new flows within our app, or maybe the way that we structure our operations internally. The real key here is that we monitor customer success in all of these experiments to make sure we're never rolling out any changes that would have that detrimental effect on the customer experience. So yeah, to summarize, I think we're going to be continuing injecting that customer voice in a data-led fashion throughout the company into those strategic and propositional decision-making conversations, so we can carry on focusing on actively driving the customer satisfaction, which, you know, in turn does lead to retention over time.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Zoe. And Rosie's saying here, how did you change that perception from cost center to value generator? And it's a really good point. And I did want to ask Davila how you feel customer support is valued in your organization, and has there been a shift in how other departments view the voice of the customer as you've continued to implement support data in your strategies?
So for us, customer love team is absolutely at the forefront of business decisions, and it always has been. We're always collaborating with other departments, for example, ahead of new product launches, kind of anticipating any questions customers might ask or what customers need. And we're always there afterwards as well to give any insights on customer feedback, both positive and constructive. So something I mentioned a bit earlier, our voice of the customer channel is one of the most buzzing channels we have.
That's brilliant. Thank you. And Rosie, I would say to that as well, in terms of the perception from cost center to value generator, something that is really important when you are presenting these ideas to a wider business is having the data to back it up. If you can quantify it and you can show like definitively the impact something is or isn't having, depending on what it is that the story is saying within the data, you will get that support if you can actually quantify it and show that data-driven approach, which I believe myself is why Butternut Box and Gousto have been so successful, because they do combine that customer centricity with the data-driven approach. And it does mean that you can and will be listened to. Amazing. So we'll come into some kind of like takeaways from the session here, and then we'll open it up for a Q&A, and we can come back to those two brilliant questions that we had earlier. But just as we are kind of talking about support in the subscription service space, in that kind of repeat revenue, I wondered from the insights and how customer care and love and service impacts retention at Gousto and Butternut Box, I'd love to know from both of you some key takeaways for the audience on how they can harness their customer support teams and insights to boost retention and revenue. And maybe if we start with Zoe.
Sure. So I'd say the key to really retaining your customers in that subscription business is just continuously obsessing over the customer and their needs. And that's why we personally find it so beneficial to zoom in on current pain points that customers are experiencing right now to help drive that balance of short-term wins and longer-term strategic decision-making. It's also important to remember that these needs change, and they change very quickly, especially in the current landscape that we're working in. So understanding the customer needs is not just that one-off exercise that you tick the box, it's a constant process. So making sure that you have that right team and the right people to focus on these processes is really key to unlocking those longer term retention goals. I'd also say don't be afraid to think outside the box. So quite literally, probably at Gousto and Butternut Box. So focusing on testing, being data centric and gathering learnings when things maybe don't go quite as well. And just thinking about iteration to improve the customer experience rather than a big bang approaches.
Brilliant. Thank you, Zoe. And I think that's something that I think every one of us has has struggled with something is like consistency and just making those small changes in line with an overall vision rather than trying to overhaul everything all at once. So that's a really good insight. Thank you. Devilla?
I would say, to sum up, it's about building personable relationships with our customers and ensuring that every decision made is customer-centric. The minute you don't, you lose trust. It's important to listen to customer feedback, have the process in place to implement changes on the back of it and close the circle. And of course, to keep the team in mind. We always say, happy team, happy customer.
Love it. Okay, brilliant. So we've got some questions here. I was going to open the Q&A, but I think what I might actually do is just keep the chat open. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat window there, and we'll start running through these. So we've got a question from David. How do you keep your employees connected as one team to keep delivering the same message to your customers, especially in the age of home working? It's a really good question. I mean, I can speak from my perspective. I think over communication in terms of internally is better than kind of just assuming someone knows something. And even if you feel like you're explaining something and you know it really well, the other person may not. So I think that's one thing. And then when it comes to support and responses, I would say to have guidelines, but to not be too scripted. This is from my own kind of personal experience. If it's too scripted, then you just sound like you're talking to a robot, and you may as well be talking to those kind of like AI generated answers. Whereas if you're talking to a real person, you want that person to be understanding you. So you want to have guidelines for people so that they know how to answer a question, but to also trust them. And it comes back again to having the right people on your team, to trust them, to be able to speak to that customer with empathy and to get to the bottom of the problem that they are having, or the feedback they are giving in a timely and caring kind of manner. I wonder if anybody else has anything else to add, or if that's
Yeah, I think I just add, like, from Gousto perspective, we're based off multiple sites. We were actually doing remote working before COVID hit. So I think we're in a fairly privileged position to have that transition be not as abrasive as many other people. But I think we've got a really awesome training and quality team. So a dedicated team of people who are constantly making resources, information, and it's not stuffy, it's full of gifts, it's interactive, there's quizzes, really engaging with employees of the month, things like that. I think can really help bridge the gap, both in terms of information sharing, but also just team motivation, just from Gousto's perspective.
Awesome. Thank you. David has a question. Oh, sorry, no, I read that question, David. I hope that was a good answer. Shubham has a question on key customer success metrics and how you measure them. So it's really interesting, I think, when it comes to success versus maybe support or customer love, and there's a lot of discussion around one being proactive and one being reactive. And I think there's honestly like a little bit of both in both of them. I think you can use customer support to be proactive, like Gousto and Butternut Box are, by using the feedback that you get with it and feeding that back to the wider business and the wider organization. In terms of key customer success metrics, though, I have found, again, depending on your rhythm of business, net revenue retention or net dollar retention, however you kind of quantify that, is really important, as that shows you the effect of the customer success team in regards to upsells or kind of additional revenue that they have found, renewals, things like that. So anything greater than 100% means you're growing. So that's a really, really important one for customer success. And then I would say as well, one that I really like personally is customer effort score. I think if somebody is having difficulty doing something, inherently it means they're not having a very good time. And if you can pinpoint which bits of the journey are difficult, which bits of the journey people are having a good time with and are finding really easy, then they're going to be a lot better off for it. So that's what I would say for customer success. We have another question saying, do you use just Centisum to identify customer pain points? I wonder if anyone is able to jump in with kind of if you have any other tools that you use, or I know you mentioned a voice of the customer channel, Davila. So is that kind of fed into manually, or how does that work?
So our voice of the customer channel is kind of a form that you can submit feedback. Anyone can do it. And then it's kind of collated into a more digestible format and shared with the wider business. Yeah, that would be the answer.
Yeah, I think from Gousto's perspective, we've got like a number of different mediums that we'll use, both in terms of reactive. Send-to-Sum is the only way that we do highlight customer pain points from a support perspective. We've also got extensive market research teams who will use a whole suite of different tools to get in situ feedback. Things like adding questionnaires directly into the digital product, sending out surveys. I know we do quarterly, monthly surveys using key metrics like CSAT, NPS, things like that, to try and triangulate together to really get that idea of customer success over time. But yeah, it's really a bit of a melting pot.
Amazing. Well, thank you. That's really, really interesting, and kind of answers the success metrics as well question. So appreciate that. George says, do you think that by providing effective customer support, you're able to convert customers from occasional purchasers to subscribers? And do you track that as a metric? Interesting. I've definitely been on the kind of subscriber/occasional purchaser end of that, where I'm like, I may as well subscribe. I buy this so often. But yeah, I wonder if that's something that you're aware of from a Gousto or Butternut Box point of view.
Yeah, so I think from our perspective, it isn't necessarily something that we track on like an agent by agent metric, but we have done extensive amounts of research into the impact of customer satisfaction to retention. So really getting like a pound value to whether a customer has a positive or negative experience. And one thing that we do know is that if you are a transactional customer, you have a positive experience, you're more likely to have a longer lifetime value with us. So in turn, moving from transactional to subscription customers, if that answers your question.
Brilliant. A question from Tom says, how do you describe your relationship with product management as a function, and how do you make the most of that relationship to drive change? It's a great question, and I think the insights gained from customer support and success, all the surveys that are done, are critical for product management. Really, you can really identify a whole array of things. You can see where people are struggling. You can see where people are inquiring about things where, if you feel like you've given a good enough overview to say, here's how you do something, but if you're getting 100 people a day saying, how do I do this thing? It's like, okay, maybe I need to rework some of the documentation around this and update that and make it a little more obvious to people. And you can see that trend kind of over time within the support tickets. Similarly, if a bug comes up, you can see that immediately, maybe before somebody in the product team will see it, just because you see a spike in those support tickets. So from our perspective at Send-to-Sum, it's really important for us. And I don't know if Zoe or Davila, you have anything you wanted to add to that.
Yeah, I was just going to add, I think that the customer solutions team, so being the team that is closest to those pain points, I'd say that product management as a function is who we work closest with. Being an e-commerce business, there's no storefront to Gousto. So our app is really, our app and website even, is actually, the storefront to our product. And it's a really, really valuable data set that we have in the discovery process when we're starting to do, both that, bug sharing, making sure those little things are being addressed, but actually like longer term when we're seeing what direction we want to go as a business, that's incredibly valuable information. And is, we've had great feedback from our product managers, which making their lives a bit easier to help in terms of being data led, being able to put a pounds and pence value to a specific problem really helps weigh up other opportunities and make sure that you're being as customer centric as possible.
Brilliant. Thank you, Zoe. And then Geronimo has asked a question of Davila. Do you see a particular contact driver coming through WhatsApp more than other channels? Or I guess, is it just easier for people, so it's a little bit of everything, but it just comes through a little quicker, a little easier?
I would say it's a little bit of everything, but definitely you can see customers reaching out on WhatsApp for more time sensitive kind of questions regarding deliveries or anything like that. It is a result because the answer rate is very quick on WhatsApp. So customers consciously probably making this decision to ask something time sensitive to get the reply quicker on particular channel like WhatsApp.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Thank you, Davila. Matthew, where do you begin with a customer effort score? Can you share an example of when you have deployed this type of metric? Matthew, I would say customer effort score. The way that I've used it in the past is where you have that kind of value point, that moment that you want that person using your product to say, yep, this is the one for me. I've done the thing that I need to do. We'll always say after that, when they've performed that action, how easy was it for you to get to this point? Like, was this good? Because whether you're satisfied or not doesn't really matter. If they've done it, they're going to be satisfied. But if they're like, oh, well, I've done it, but it actually like took me 3 days to figure it out because I couldn't find the button or something. If it wasn't easy for them, even though they've got that value, it took them a long time to get there. And that's an indicator to try and speed up that time to value and make sure that the value points are easy to access and quicker to get to, if that makes sense, Matthew. Geronimo says, amazing thoughts. So thank you, Davila, for that answer before. You're very welcome, Matthew. Do we have any more questions? I'll give it kind of a minute. I believe I can do a little timer here. So I'll do 1 minute on the timer just for any more questions before we wrap up here. Dara says, thank you. You are very, very welcome. Geronimo, another one from me, if no one else has. Not a problem at all, Geronimo. At what customer subscription age, whether in time or number of boxes, do you feel customer care has the biggest impact? Obviously always, but just that bit extra. So is it during the first 3 deliveries, etc.? Does anyone want to jump in on that one?
I think there's an argument of it's very similar across the whole customer experience. I think that, from a customer loyalty perspective, you've got a lot more potentially to lose. At later down the line, you spend time to build up that trust. And if you've got a specific high value customer, they may be more likely to spend more time with you over time. But on the flip side, an early life customer is, I think the timer's banged off.
That's the timer. Sorry, Zoe.
No, I think from our perspective, we like to see every customer and every situation is as important as the other. I think as soon as you start pinning certain customers against the other, you can start to get some sort of bias from our perspective.
Brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, no, it is very fair comment, Geronimo says. And sometimes there isn't a particular time period. And do you know, Geronimo, it's going to be really specific to your business as well. Your business is going to have different rhythms and different cadences to other types of subscription businesses. There will, of course, be trends and things that can align, but ultimately it's about you and your customers. So if you do the deep dive into the data and try and find them, you'll be able to see that. We do have another question from Racer saying, I struggle to collect all customer feedback from multiple channels, so Zendesk, social surveys. How can we make sure to collect and report the most efficient way? Anybody want to jump in on this one?
I think, Charlotte, you could reply to this one about Centisum.
I didn't want to make it too, but Centisum does that, and that's kind of the way that we interact and work with Gousto and Butternut Box and Zoe and Davila really closely to make sure that all of these different channels are pulled into one place and you can analyze them with kind of that one overarching look to see what your data is telling you.
Yeah, just to build on that, I think that's definitely one of the key things that I find most useful. You're able to quickly zoom in on Trustpilot, maybe you're building what you get from your self-service tool to build in feedback there. I think it's quite flexible to be able to bring everything together, but also using different parts of the company as well, to really have that self-serviceable insight that you can just share with people very easily off the back.
Awesome. Thank you, Zoe. And we've got Neil. Oh, what are your biggest challenges to improving customer and team experiences? Do you have any challenges? I think so from our perspective at Centisum, some of the biggest challenges are just making sure that you're putting the resources into the right places in terms of improving the customer and team experience. And it is finding the right people and making sure that you give people the time and space like we discussed earlier. So like having the guidelines, but not being strict about how you interact with people, or not kind of watching over somebody's shoulder, and just like supporting people to do the best that they possibly can. I would imagine that's a very similar situation at Gousto and Butternut Box.
I could probably add, as you scale, it can become more challenging to keep the same processes in place. And I don't think not necessarily we should. We need to continue improving and finding more efficient ways of doing that. So in Butternut, we love speaking about efficiency gains and always strive for better in terms of that. And we're always very clear with our goals that, we wouldn't be asking the team for more if we aren't improving the processes behind. So it's just by giving correct tools to our team, we can, continue serving more customers as well.
Brilliant. Thank you, Davila. And then we got one more question from Joe, and then we will wrap up the webinar. Thank you so much to everybody for joining. Joe says, once a loyalty scheme has been introduced and is maturing at a good rate, what level of contact is enough/not enough to keep engagement and satisfaction high? I don't know if anyone can jump in on this one. I would say, again, like businesses are very unique. You will probably find that your level of contact will be different for others. Sometimes, I think, let me get my thoughts in my head. So Centisum has a pretty unique onboarding experience, I would say, from our perspective. So our touch points feel sometimes like a lot, but because there is a good kind of amount of time that is required to do what we do, we do want to make sure that people are up to date and that they are in the loop with what's going on and the developments that are being made to their particular product. In terms of subscription services, just from best practice research and what people should do, I think if there is anything that is a critical point, you have to contact, even if you feel like it's a little too much. You have to kind of do that at that critical element. So whether that's a transactional thing or something where if you were in the dark about it, you wouldn't want to be. You have to kind of reach out for that particular thing. In terms of surveys and things, survey fatigue is real. So just to try and integrate it within a seamless experience. So if somebody does something, like I say, the effort score, somebody does an interaction and then a survey pops up afterwards, rather than kind of out the blue where somebody's not prepared for it. That's my kind of own takeaway from doing research, from looking into this kind of stuff. I don't want to kind of speak for Zoe and Davila though, so if you guys have anything else you'd like to add, please feel free.
Yeah, I think that, just echoing what Charlotte says, I think that it is very different depending on your company. I know from our perspective, that's why we lean so heavily into surprise and delight. We don't have a regular timing. I think the elements on surprise and catching people, when they're not expecting it. But yeah, that's my perspective. I'm not sure if it's the same in Butternut.
I probably wouldn't have anything to add at the moment.
No, and I think you covered it a bit earlier as well, Davila, when you said about pigeon and sending the pigeon, like things like that. Little, just like personalized bits of contact are really nice. And again, that's about empowering and enabling your support team to be able to go ahead and do those things and take the time for it. Thank you so much to everybody for your questions. They've been fantastic. I hope we've been able to cover some of the things that you were interested in. I hope you've got some amazing insights from Davila and Zoe at Butternut Box and Gousto, respectively. Thank you both so much for your time as well. It's been really amazing to speak to you and hear about your experience and how you are really at the forefront of this customer centricity and data-led element of customer support. So couldn't thank you enough. Thank you guys, and thank you everybody for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks guys.